Welcome to the Fandom Outpost, your podcast for all things pop culture.
Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of the Fandom Outpost. As always, I am 1/3 your host. My name is Mark.
I'm Jim.
I'm Bob. Hi, everybody. Today's topic is how movies have changed from their directorial beginnings and how we can either accept it or not accept it, basically.
Or not accept it, basically.
This all came about with the release of the 4Ks of James Cameron recently, The Abyss, Aliens, and True Lies. And there's been quite a bit of discussion about whether or not people should like it, do like it, because of the changes in how it's presented visually.
And what do you mean by that, Bob? Presented visually.
We're definitely going to take it. There's kind of two paths on this. I was thinking about. One is when the picture itself has been adjusted from its original release on film and put out either digitally or on disc, and it's how it's been restored. Whether it's how much it's cleaned up, how much it's altered just in the visual presentation of it. And then there's another lane of this topic I was thinking about, more like the George Lucas angle, where things are added, supplemented to change an original release. So I think there's two ways to talk about how things, how should you accept things, or do you like when things are changed from an original movie release? I think that's the best way to put it. We've been kind of struggling with how to label this.
Right.
But that's basically the topic. So which lane would you guys like to touch on first, I guess? Visual presentation or more of the taking liberties with content?
You know what? Let's do the elephant in the room, George Lucas. Let's go there.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. He's kind of the biggest one that everybody knows about. Back in 1997, he took his now famous Star Wars original trilogy and he turned them into the special editions. What made him special? Exactly what Bob just said for the last 10 seconds, is that he added things. He tweaked it visually. He feels that the technology finally caught up to him and he could do what he needed to do to finish the film. All the while leading into the prequel trilogy that he got to work on right after that.
They're directly connected, right? He found that he can do what he wanted to do in the prequel trilogy, right? By doing those special editions.
Yeah.
Right. And now I love The Abyss and I love Aliens. I'm not sure who doesn't. I'd like to meet that person. I streamed them yesterday for some reason while Bob was watching these 4Ks. And so we were talking about them back and forth. So I didn't have nothing special about mine. Mine were just regular directorial releases. And Bob sent a couple screenshots over of, I guess that's Ed Harris, right?
Right, on The Abyss.
And The Abyss and what it looks like and everything like that. And it looked way better than my streaming device, I'll tell you that. Those screen captures that you sent were way better than the streaming device I was using. And, I'm not sure if that's because, again, technology that he's using to clean it up, or there seemed to be some controversy surrounding the use of what we were talking about? AI?
AI, right.
The AI.
So we figured that James...
Right. AI.
Well, let's get into the presentation a little bit down the stream a little bit,
Right.
but back to Lucas and the adding creatures and adding digital
Right.
content. How do you guys feel about that in general? I mean, my favorite example of what I would like the most would be Close Encounters. When the 4K came out, it had the director's cut, had the special edition, and had the theatrical cut. That way, you had the best of all worlds. You can have your original theatrical release. You can have your special edition. You can have, you know what I mean? I enjoy that. That Lucas never did that with the original.
Oh my God!
It kind of.
Let me stop you right there. That's an excellent question. Do you think if he released them along with his originals, he would not get the backlash he had today? Because there would be no controversy, right?
Correct. Yeah, if they were available in both,
it would have
formats. Then
Like
what do you think, Jim?
if they were available in both, I mean, wow, Bob, you pose a really strong question there. Like, would we not be bagging on George Lucas? Would the world not be doing that because there would be people who'd be like, I like this version. I'm just going to go watch this and stuff. So Man, that's a great question.
As a director, though, when you're making something, you're forced to make decisions. That's part of the creative process, right? So you're forced to go, oh, the budget. We don't have the budget for this. Let's chop that out. Or we can only make, I can only get 5,000 extras for this instead of 10,000 extras for this. So, but it's those choices that you make get you to your final product, which then goes to the public. And if the public enjoys it and it's a success, then did you make the wrong choice as a director? You made the right choice given the circumstances you had. I didn't see anything that needed to be changed in any of those, but, I think all that, the fact that they had George Lucas still had the footage of the guy who was going to be Jabba the Hutt as a placement, if they didn't have that, I wonder how much of that
Right,
would have
that's a
been
good-
done, right?
Right.
Of all the things to not put back in, I didn't get Biggs at Tashi Station. I didn't get. That's the stuff I wanted to see back in there.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
Of all the
Yeah,
things he could have
like-
put in there,
Isn't that weird?
I didn't need to see a big elephant creature when I'm coming into Mos Eisley. I mean, it's neat that we could do that now.
There you go. That's what it is. It's neat that we could do that, and it's all flow. Lucas, for years, stated that he took out the Biggs at Tashi Station because it ruined the flow of the space battle.
Yeah.
He didn't want
I
to
get
cut
it.
I
down
would
to
agree
that.
with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I get it. But is there a way that you could be, as a director and working with your editor, you could cut that back in somewhere? Maybe that's the introduction to Mark Hamill's character after the battle upstairs. You know what I mean?
Oh, sure.
Instead of Luke, and then he comes outside, he goes and stares at the suns. Because you still have the battle at the end, and when Biggs dies, we have no emotional connection that supposedly was his best friend.
Right.
Yesterday, guys,
Yes.
I told my two co-hosts here that I'm on the other side of it. The director is the director. If it is his creation, it's his creation.
Right. That is
Whatever he wants to tweak and do. If he comes back 20 years later and adds 3 more chapters to a book because he wanted to do blah, 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 that's his. I agree with that 100%. I don't have to like the outcome,
True.
but I agree that that's theirs. They could do with what they want with it, you
Right.
know. Not to the point that I'm going to go argue with a bunch of trolls online and get into a fight over it. It's just, it is what it is. I believe that the content is the creator's content.
It does make it more palatable, though, if we still are allowed to consume the one that we like to begin with, if we still have that available to us.
Right. That's what I wish would happen with some of these. Because even the Exorcist had a director's
they put
cut
all the
and had
little
extra scenes and
subliminal
things.
head in there now, and that's the version everybody sees, right? You see the Pazuzu face comes in and out all the time.
The crab walk and
Right. There's a reason the crab walk got taken out, because it didn't work. Or the spider walk or whatever it is down the
Right,
stairs.
and it came too early.
Came
in the
way too
scene.
early.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it came way too early because your shock and awe is when you open up the door and she's flipping around on the bed, right?
Right. Right.
Like that's your introduction to what's going on with Regan. So it's like, oh damn! So she come down and peed herself. And
Right.
did
That
all
was the more
spider
shocking
walk
than
stuff.
the spider walk, right? She comes down in front
Yeah,
of
I
her
think so.
family's party and soils
Yeah.
herself. So
but it has but you get both, with
Yeah.
the package with the current presentation you kind of
I'm
get
okay with
both.
it if they don't erase the previous, right? On the Close Encounters thing, it's like the studio was looking to milk more from the movie, and they had Spielberg, film the inside or put these shots in, and he was like, I didn't want to do it. And famously, when they not too long ago, a decade ago or whatever, when they re-released E.T., he took out all the guns of the people running through the forest.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And he goes back and says, "Yeah, I probably wouldn't do that again." And
Yeah,
you know,
he regrets doing it because that's studio pressure.
right,
And of all people to bow down to studio pressure, that's not the guy to do it.
right. So
You know what I mean?
The other changes we were talking about would be the restoration / enhancement of original releases. And like I said, this all came up with the 4K release. Now, these movies have been long awaited for on disc, on Blu-ray. I know The Abyss wasn't on Blu-ray
True
or
Lies, right?
True Lies, right? Those weren't even, they were just on DVD.
Right.
So I picked them up over the last week or so, and we watched The Abyss, simultaneously basically yesterday, and then I popped in Aliens at night, and then I threw in True Lies this morning to kind of compare all three of them. And I'm here to tell you that it's not that crazy looking. I still think they look like the best they've ever looked,
falling.
and probably the best they ever will look.
Right.
So it whatever he did to clean them up using AI or whatever technology that's new to tighten up the grain on it and all that. You can get way into the weeds with that kind of stuff. But just as a consumer viewer, I was pleasantly surprised that they look not as bad as a lot of people have been saying online. And The Abyss did look the best of the three. I mean, it just looked crisp and clean and looked really good. And
I love
the
it.
audio's Atmos on all. I
Right.
think all three have Atmos. Audio's terrific. I mean, they're just great presentations. I mean, they're as good as they've ever will look or have looked. So, I mean, if you're fans of those movies, then you should definitely check them out.
Watching them on my streaming device, because they were brought out to my streaming device, I'm assuming to coincide with the release of the discs. You know what I mean? So I did watch The Abyss and Aliens last night. And by the way, just throwing those out there, if we haven't mentioned them yet, they still hold up to this day. Testament, whether you love him or hate him, good jobs, James Cameron. Both those films still hold up to today. Okay? The Abyss being the weakest because it's so special effects heavy that it's tough to see Bud floating with or flying.
That last act.
That last act where he's floating with the alien. That's tough on any level, but I liked it.
We talked about a possible future topic about directors with great movie runs of making movies in a run. And you go from Terminator to Aliens to The Abyss. I mean, and then even True Lies. I mean, and then what? Avatar, I guess you get in next. I mean, but that first three or so is like, oh my God, Terminator, Aliens,
I know.
and Abyss. It's like,
and this is weird, folks. This is Cameron to me. He falls back into the John Carpenter category where he shot his wad so early on, like that. Those coming out the gate ones are so good, so powerful. I think it culminates in Terminator 2, Bob. I think that's what his run would culminate in Terminator 2. Yeah, that's years. That's 10 years down the line, I think, from Terminator 2.
4 or 5.
Was it? Yeah.
Titanic?
Yeah.
95-ish?
Yeah. So it's about 5 years down the line, I think, from Terminator 2. Wasn't that 91? So
yeah.
So and he's riding a high off that. Like, he can't do no wrong after Terminator 2. People consider that his best movie. I do not, but they consider it his best movie. Like the best things he's ever made.
Yeah, Terminator 2 is like railed on for the 4K presentation because of how much it's DNR'd, digital noise reduction applied to it. That just kind of made it. I mean, when you take all the grain out of something, it makes it look kind of like plasticky, waxy. That's what people complain about, who are like really into film or physical media presentations. You take that grain out, which kind of gives you that ethereal, fantasy feel like it's something else. You take that grain out, it becomes like a video, right? And you get that very static-y, or not static, but waxy AI looking.
Well, you know what it looks like? It looks like, so when I first saw, ladies and gentlemen, Bob dragged me to the 1999 presentation of The Phantom Menace, and it was in digital. And we had never heard what this was yet. We waited in line forever. Finally, we go in there, and I remember saying, and I comment to whoever was next to me. It was either Bob or somebody. But I was like, I don't think I need to see every blemish in Natalie Portman's face.
Right.
She was young back then. I'm not saying blemish like she was
face,
fucked up.
Right, yeah.
That's it. Yeah, that's what I meant. Like, I don't think I needed to see that. And that's what digital and 4K and all these guys are doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're making it so it looks like
how clear is
like
clear,
a soap opera on TV when they shoot that stuff with digital. You know what I mean?
Right. So I mean, let's be clear. Not everybody in the market of watching movies wants or has to see something that clear. Like my wife probably, she doesn't care if it's on I'm always yelling at her because she'll have the SD channels on cable, and I'm like, "Could you put that's on HD?"
It's the same way, man. I come
like
home and I got to click
she
that
doesn't
button.
care
And
about
yeah,
that.
they don't care about that. They're like, listen, I know the movie. I know what I'm watching. Okay. I'm not going to watch this.
Right. So there's people that just don't care about that stuff, but we're talking about the people who do care, who really are into it.
Like I have Dolby Atmos in my home, right? And I'd say I'm at about a 70-30 split. 70% of the time it works the way it's supposed to because I don't have all the 7.1 channels hooked up right now. I'm like in your category right now, Bob. I do have that capability, but the way my stuff is designed, I'm not dealing with. But every now and then, my wife will look up and she'll be like, "Damn, did you hear that?" Like something will just shoot through the house like a fucking hummingbird or something. It sounds like it flew, from left to right or something. And we don't catch it because, like I said, mine's 70-30. It's good sound quality, anyways. It just doesn't have that little extra oomph that
the height speakers that gives you more of a
yeah. Well, for the first time, I told Bob the story the other day. I'll tell it really quick. I went to see Dune 2 in a Dolby Atmos theater, and I realized I've never experienced Dolby Atmos before because you will never forget a Dolby Atmos movie if you actually watch it. You won't. And that is probably one of the perfect movies to watch in Dolby Atmos because like your very chest feels like your heart's probably going to explode out of your rib cage. I mean, you are immersed in a level of sound that like you can't touch anything without it humming or vibrating. He puts his hand in the sand and you feel that on your chair. I was like, holy cow. I mean, I remarked it quite a few times, but I will never have that at home.
That's what theaters are doing. That's the next phase of attracting people to come to the theater is to enhance the audio. They've already enhanced the picture. Now they're enhancing the audio.
How do I make the experience unique? Well, with Cameron on his films, one of the things that I heard somebody talking about when they were thinking about putting the Avatar stuff in Disney World. And they were like, oh, Cameron was like, he was at Disney World with one of the ride people and they were walking around looking at things. And the person said, he goes, one thing with James Cameron, whatever he does, he's going to make you elevate it to the next level of technology. So he's always pushing the next thing, right? So that's why we got Avatar, and that's how we get all the mocap that gets used today and all that. And so I would expect more of this coming from films than less in the future.
Well, in regards to that, it's almost like Cameron, unfortunately, like he left Lucas behind.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he's one of the auteurs that are still out there that are making films, although Avatar 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 17, okay.
Yeah, you're like, presuming that we want...
The birds flying and stuff in the first movie looked phenomenal. The second and third movies, I'm still sure they're going to look the same. What is he doing? Do a movie that's got cars driving, so I can hear that sound and see that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I don't care about off-world stuff anymore. That science fiction stuff has been done to death between him and Lucas and all that stuff. It's just done to death, and we've seen it all now.
What are our feelings then? I mean, let's cut to the chase of the discussion, basically. Are we on board with changes that are affecting content within movies? Are we? That's one part A, and then part B. Are we cool with changing the presentation visually just of the actual film? Like, do we want it to be the experience we had when we saw it in the theater, or do we care that it's been modernized, so to speak, into cleaner, sharper, whatever you want to call it, using AI technology or what have you to get it looking different than it originally? Are we okay with that, or is that just the way it's going to go? Should we complain?
I think it's just
how do we
going to be
feel
the way
about
it's going to go, and you're not going to have any choice in the matter, I think.
Yeah.
Like, for example, 1979's Dracula with Frank Langella, the John Badham movie. He wanted to make it in black and white, and they were like, no, we make things in color now. But when it came to being released on DVD, it is now... He color graded it, so he took, it's not so bright and colorful anymore. Now it's a little grayer and gloomier, and that's how he wanted it, and that's how you get to see it.
Great movie too,
and that's how you get to see it from now on. So, unless you
But see, at least that's John Badham, though. That's not somebody else taking his work.
correct.
And if it's censorship, I'm not for it. I never will be for it. If it's a third party that come in and they change something, so like, I mean, there's even stories about, a third party releases it on DVD or Blu-ray, and they make changes because they're the company releasing it, so they contracted somebody else to do different color grades and stuff like that. You'll find out that things are done like that without the director's knowledge, and I don't support that. I mean, I'll never support that. But if the director does it, I support it, but I don't have to like it. That's the thing.
It's true.
You don't have to like it. And let me give you a great example, okay? 1981's Blade Runner by Ridley Scott. It's got about 4 different cuts of that movie.
What?
The definitive one by Ridley Scott is the one without the voiceover. I do not.
Which one is that called?
The final cut? Is that the final cut?
There's like the final
cut. It's called the final cut.
The final cut.
Yeah, the final cut.
I want to know, where's the original?
So,
when I saw in the theater,
here's the thing. He says that this is my final cut. It's what I want to do. He drops in all the unicorn stuff, but the biggest thing is he takes out the voiceover. Now, here's what I'm going to say confuses me, or I call bullshit on. Back in 81, when they shot it, even Ridley Scott was like, it's a neo-noir film. Even though it's set in the future, which is like, 2029 or something. Ooh, big future, compared to us now. He's like, it's a noir film. Rick Deckard is a gumshoe. Right. And like those movies of the 40s and 50s, dude, they had that voiceover in the rain and stuff like that. That works for that movie. But the fact that he took it out, that's not how I ever envisioned it. I call bullshit. That is how you envisioned it,
Yeah.
You just want to they want to get some cash grabs because that thing's been released a dozen times.
It's
with different crap, So
there he is. He's changing it. So do I have to? I guess I have to be happy that he changed it, right? Because that's what he says he wanted.
I mean, Alien had.
No, you don't have to be happy.
Oh no,
but it's his choice, so I support.
That's true.
It's his choice. He's a director. He can say no, that's not how I envisioned it. I support that you said that's not how you envisioned it. But guess what, Ridley? As a personal consumer, I don't like it. That's why I got the other versions. I'm going to watch the one with the voiceover.
Yeah, and I guess I'm in the camp where if they could keep the original, as far as content wise, in a movie, a current release that's from an older movie or a newer movie, as long as they can keep that original release, that usually keeps me satisfied. Apocalypse Now is another example, I guess, with the Apocalypse Now Redux version or whatever.
I never saw that one. I never saw it.
There should be this is the director's preferred vision, and this is the this is the theatrical one that was
supplemented. Yeah,
this is what
special edition.
Yeah, the public.
Which would all come down to that stupid Star Wars, because we can't figure it out. We all have our own opinions and cash grabs and stuff like that.
That was the one that really got everyone riled up about it.
Well, it's funny. It's
because he didn't keep those originals.
Well,
everybody clamored for the originals.
I'm wondering if for some of these directors, if it's like what they're doing in the music industry now, like when an artist goes back and they remaster their album to get their rights back, to get so that they get the money.
Good point.
To Lucas.
Yeah.
There's always the
I don't know
the scrubbing of Marsha Lucas from all that stuff. I don't know if that's the case. It's probably not, but it's like,
right.
If I don't want Disney to go put porgs and everything, I don't want them to. I don't need to see them.
Right.
But on the second, when I watch Empire Strikes Back, I love Cloud City now. It feels more like Cloud City. They got rid of all the matte lines around the asteroids when they're flying through space, which you see on TV, but not at the theater. The Wampa cave scene is great now. But the Sarlacc is kind of, it's kind of, with all the fixes that they did, they didn't change, Boba Fett dying like Wile E. Coyote hitting a cliff, right? They could have changed that.
But I'm on the one side. Here's my final line is that if the director changes stuff because he's like, this is my vision, I support it. I agree with Bob 100%. As long as it's got the vision on there that they either release theatrically or something like that, you still have available to find that it's my choice. It's the consumer's choice.
Right.
And I think that's the problem with Lucas. There's no consumer's choice right now. You have to take what they say you have to take.
All right. Well, the director is an artist making art, and the audience is a consumer consuming it. So, as somebody who, Mark, you write, so I know you're probably never happy with what you've written, because as someone who draws, I'm never happy with what I don't have a picture that I've made that I like. So, and Bob, you've done.
Damn, dude, those are two great examples.
And Bob,
I just brought that up the other
you've
day
done
in my own
filmmaking
house.
and graphics and editing and all that, and I'm
Yep.
sure they're like, when I do it for somebody else, that's fine. But if I'm doing it for me, I'm like, no, don't like that. I've never.
Something you create can usually never be
Correct.
finished. It's kind of it could always be a tweaked.
I think that's it all the time, though. Like, I feel like
That's all the time. Yeah, no,
I'm pretty sure.
I'll
Yeah, you do too, Jim. So
you could ask any director, and I'm sure they'll be like, "Oh, I wish I would have done that different." Oh, I wish any director. I'd guarantee you, even any actor, they would say, "Oh, I wish they would have used this take or that take."
Yeah,
It's usually a budget of time or budget of money that'll constrain.
There's a
before it
lot
ends.
of magical stars that have to line up to make a finished product that's a success. Be it in a film, you read all about that stuff that doesn't go wrong or doesn't go right, and you're like, well, that was a happy accident. Jaws is a great example for that.
yeah.
I will.
Oh my God, yeah.
I will flip tables if they replace the shark digitally.
Right. See, now I was going to bring that up earlier in our podcast today. That if
that rubber
started
shark
dinking with Jaws, how would you guys
scares
feel?
people today.
There's two examples. So it's Robert Zemeckis and it's Steven Spielberg, and both have been quoted as saying, "Not while I'm alive."
Right.
You're not going to get that stuff while they're alive. Now, luckily, they're both in great shape. That
The minute he
they're not
dies,
going
though,
anywhere
somebody will be out there tinkering.
That's the tough part.
Right.
And you know what? The shark one, I could give a shit about, because it's going to be a terrible thing. It'll be terrible. It'll flop. It'll be terrible. Like, it just will. Somebody will write a 90-minute screenplay. They'll miss all the beats. It'll be about how much gore we could get into it.
Right.
The one I'm really concerned about is Back to the Future.
Oh yeah.
Like, that story is so clever,
Right.
so involving, and by the end, we're all taught something better about ourselves, believe it or not, about that whole time travel thing. That, how would you expound on that in a way that's not just a reboot to say, we want to put the youngest, newest Austin Butler cash grab?
Oh no, there's
no offense, Austin Butler.
Somebody's done a digital AI with scenes of it, and they replaced with Tom Holland and Robert Downey Jr. in those two roles. I mean, it looked crazy. It looked
heads up for AI
crazy.
coming,
and it looked really good. But it's like, not that I want to see that. Now you want to take that technology and you want to fix the shark in Jaws 3 a little, all the 3D shots of it, because that's funky because of the 3D technology they had to use. Fine, you can do that.
It's a good point too about a director that's passed on, like a Kubrick.
Oh yeah,
no, just the directors that have passed on, and hopefully all the directors that are alive live a long, long life nowadays. But once anyone's gone in the future, what happens to their properties and things? I mean, that's a whole nother discussion.
When do they become less sacred?
Let me mention this one, Eyes Wide Shut. Okay, that was well into
Right,
post-production when Stanley Kubrick passed away. So a studio went in and edited his orgy scene. Okay,
right.
They did all this stuff to it. And believe it or not, it was Roger Ebert who came out in his review and said, it's a travesty. Like, for you to touch another person's work based on what you think or the studio thinks or something, that's a travesty. That thing should have aired as is his vision. And I agree with them.
Right. That's coming out, I think, in this year. I read something, 4K of that. So I'm going to be really curious to see what happens with that, because like you said, it was such a weird production.
Right. Are they going to put it back in? Right. I saw that.
So.
I saw Mad Max last weekend, and there's I still can't get over it. There's a scene in there that even back in 1978 when we were watching it. Well, Jim and I, you probably don't remember, we saw it as a double feature with First Blood at the State Wayne. So
Mad
we'd already
Max?
seen
Yes, I do.
Road Warrior
No, I do remember
first.
that. Yeah,
You know,
I do.
yeah, we didn't see that till second. But that kid's in the background playing with Max's 44 Magnum revolver in his mouth.
Yikes.
Like, it is like, wow. And so the screen version, we saw they edited 2 scenes out. He wasn't playing on the floor, but then they had a quick close-up cut of it. Kid had a handle on that barrel. I was like, holy shit. The fact that they were still showing that for American audiences in light of today, not back then with the 70s exploitation stuff, but in light of today, I'm very shocked that that made it into the film and somebody didn't edit that. Would I have had a problem with it? That's a tough one. That's a tough one. I'm sensitive to people and what goes on today, but the director's vision is the director's vision. It came out fucking 4 decades ago. That was another time, you know?
Right. Things were
Right.
different.
Let it be what it
Films
is.
were made
Right.
differently.
Right. And it should represent
It should reflect
that
the time
right?
period
Absolutely,
in which it
you
was
know?
made. Correct. Absolutely. So we're our tagline for this, we're agreed that Jim Cameron is in league with AI and Skynet, and he's
Yeah, Jim Cameron uses AI.
so he's
like
he's
that.
part of the deep state
It's
of
all
the
coming
film.
down.
Is that what we're saying?
Maybe. Never know.
Cyberdyne.
It's all
Cyberdyne.
coming.
Just want them to have a little fun with us. This whole thing started because we enjoyed talking movies and pop culture stuff and together, and we just thought, wouldn't it be neat if someone else was listening into our little convos? So hopefully people feel that way when they listen to this.
And I don't know his name, but Bob said something about shout out to somebody from Australia or Hong Kong or whatever it was.
Well, I was going to say we have a fan of the month. We're going to call it, I guess.
Ah, look at that.
Martin H, who made a comment and mentioned he was checking us out from Tokyo, which I thought
That's
was
what
really
it was,
cool.
Tokyo. So
For his dedication to the channel, we're gonna call Martin H the fan of the month.
that's great. I love that stuff. So on that note, Bob, take us out.
Okay, join us on the Fandom Outpost on social media, Facebook and Instagram. We'd love to interact with you about our topics that we bring up in our channel, and we appreciate you subscribing and liking our videos. We'd really appreciate it. We enjoy all the support. We'll see you next time on the Fandom Outpost. Goodbye, everybody.